Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Jodo Cast, your Star Wars gaming podcast. This is episode 76? Pretty sure. Yeah, 76.
Soldiers 76.
Oh, you're right. Are you watching Overwatch League right this second?
Well, I was, but I turned it off to make sure that, so I didn't, mess up our connection for audio streaming.
Oh, well, thank you. And of course, that voice you're hearing is Leo Andre. Spared no expense. And we don't have a Joe tonight because he's too busy eating German food.
So it's like an old school
So
episode.
it's like going back in time. Nothing wrong with that. The oldies are still the best. Like the original trilogy.
Except for the Beatles.
Except for the Beatles?
Yeah, they're terrible, man.
Well, like, they're... When they still just wore, like, black suits and had haircuts and everything?
Like,
or you mean period?
When they made... Period.
Okay.
I think the Beatles were pretty good, like, song writers, music makers, or, like, but I just did not like them as, like, musicians themselves. There's not a Beatles song out there that I haven't heard a cover for and been like, wow, that's way better than the original.
Okay. Wow. That's good to know. I will not buy you any Beatles things for your birthday. Not that I don't think you were ever in danger of that. So, okay, well, never mind. I was gonna get into a whole big thing of, then you must be an Elvis guy if you're not a Beatles guy.
Elvis ain't too bad.
There you go. Called it.
I don't really listen to him, but I mean, I like his stuff when I hear it.
Excellent.
So there's our first tangent of the episode.
Wow, that did not take long at all. How long did that take? Approximately
about
3 minutes.
30 seconds.
There you go. 30 seconds. To Mars. No, never that. Never, ever, ever that. That joke has been retracted. All right, so... as we said, we've got no Joe, so we'll move right into saying thank you to all of our patrons who give their time, talents, and affection over at patreon.com/thejodocast. You are all amazing, and you've helped us to up our game, and we're going to continue to make improvements throughout this year. We've got some new and exciting things coming up, and we'll be giving you the news first. And let's keep this show rolling. I don't know what that was supposed to be, but yeah, it's going to be great. So thank you all again for sticking with us. Whether you're currently are or you have in the past supported us, we appreciate you all very, very much. And you can of course find all of our social media links over at our website jodocast.com. Especially, we want you to direct you to our Discord server. We are on there pretty much all day, every day. You can find someone to talk to. If not us, then one of our other great community members and listeners.
And we are on there right now.
We are. We are on there, and actually, it should be noted that one of the Patreon perks is that you can jump into the private patrons lounge and talk with us while we record. So you can hear us, we can't hear you, but you can type at us, and you can alter the course of history by jumping in to our conversation. And then
that sounds like a lot of pressure to put on our patrons, man.
That, you know what, with great power comes great ability to chat in the middle of a podcast.
With great patronage.
With great patronage comes great pressure. Apparently. That's what Leo tells me, at least. I don't know. While you're over at jodocast.com, you can also go take a little feedback survey and let us know what you like, what you hate, and what you want to see more of in the future. So thank you for hopping over there. And, of course, wherever you download, please leave a comment, review, a rating, and share with your friends. Word of mouth is still the best way to get it out there. So share. Twitter, Facebook, wherever it is that you go. Let your friends know how much you like us. And with that, let's talk about what we've been playing, Leo.
Oh, well, I've played a little bit of Legion.
Just a little?
Just a little. I've been spending a lot of time in my basement painting, so I've been preparing to play Legion. I've got my first league game tomorrow, so I'm excited about that.
Okay. Now, you said that like both your stores are doing Legion League?
Yeah. Well, they're both going to be having Legion events. Only one store is actually announced a league so far, but
okay.
It's like they don't have any like the organized play kits or anything yet. It's mostly just like the store owner's so excited for the game that he wants to play more of it and kind of get a chance to get the rules down a little bit more before actual league play starts with the kits.
Very cool.
I haven't had a chance to play it because I've been so busy with Legion stuff, but I did manage to get in and registered for Destiny at Worlds, so I will actually be able to play a game and not just go there and kind of stand around and stare at everyone else playing.
And do you have any idea what you might be running? Not to give away your whole master plan. And I guess today's Holocron update didn't exactly wreck the meta too much,
No.
at least. But
I was kind of thinking of trying to put together a Seventh Sister deck and have the with the Maul Sabers. The slight nerf to Maul Sabers, has changed my mind. I'm going to stick with my original plan now of refining my Qui-Gon and Kanan deck between now and May, and then running that. I think it's going to be the easiest thing for me to do since I don't really own much for Legacies at all. So
yeah. Well, I don't either. You've probably bought more of that than I have. And then you bought Legion. So you're way up on me all the way around. I have gotten to play more of my weekly Star Wars RPG, which is going pretty well. As I said, I'm running it, and it's really great to be actually doing a weekly game. I hope we can get it to continue. I think we've gotten to a pretty good point of just being regular with it.
Well, I may be getting to have some Destiny stuff and the Legion, but I am really jealous of you getting to get in some role playing because it's been a long time since I've had a regular role playing session going.
Yeah, I guess it is a while between our Triumph and Despair sessions, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about the closest I've got to a regular session going.
Yeah, I do wish there was an easier way that we could finagle some. I mean, there's no reason we couldn't try to do something over Discord. I mean, we've got the channel for it. We could try, because that's what we have plenty of time for all that, right?
Oh yeah, lots and lots of time.
So much time.
Now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be painting from now until infinity.
Well, just not to get onto more Legion talk, but it's going to happen. What percentage of your army do you have painted by now? Like, what's it? Like 2 weeks since it's been out?
I've completely painted one Rebel Trooper and one ATRT. That is it.
Okay.
I've got another whole squad of Rebel Troopers here that I've nearly got like all the base colors down, at least. That's the only thing that stinks is it's going to be tomorrow is the start of our league, and I'm going to have to go with mostly unpainted minis, but oh well, that's, life. I think there's going to be a lot of other guys there with mostly unpainted armies too at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they're going to be, forcing or pressuring people to be painted, otherwise they can't compete or anything like that. So
Yeah. I mean, this store I'll be playing at is like the wargaming store in town, pretty much.
oh,
It's not the only one, because we do actually have an actual like Games Workshop store in Fargo.
oh, you do.
Yeah, it opened up I think like last year, so that's kind of cool.
I'm always surprised to see a new one pop up. It just seems like it's such a specialized store that it seems odd that they could make enough to make it a viable buying format.
Yeah, I was honestly like, I didn't realize that the local Warhammer scene was big enough to support one, but apparently it is, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So,
Well, kudos to them.
yeah, but yeah, so there's a lot of wargamers at this store. So I don't know, there could end up being some people who are more serious about it, are more serious wargamers and have been painting longer and stuff like that and are faster. So maybe they'll have some painted up armies or
Yeah.
they'll have done some speed painting, which I could have done some more of, but it's also like my only option is to like prime outdoors and stuff, and right now it's still winter, so it's a little difficult.
Yeah, it was here the last couple days too. Kind of out of nowhere. We had, it's snow and it's 32 degrees. Surprise.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, spring. But we're actually not going to talk about Legion on this episode.
Oh.
I know. We're going to talk about the thing that you wish you were playing, RPGs.
Oh, well, then that's okay.
Oh, okay. I think that's what the show will consist of going forward, Legion and RPG. I think that's a pretty good thing. I don't know. We might do some more Destiny one of these days when we actually get a chance to play some more. Maybe after Worlds, when you've won the whole thing.
Huh.
Oh, you laugh now, and then you do win the whole thing. We'll see. I'll put all my money on you.
All right, well, I maybe if I somehow get nothing but God rolls in every game the whole tournament.
Yep, it's going to happen. You're the chosen one. Okay, but let's talk about RPGs now. We had an episode, you, me, and Joe, where we talked kind of about how to get started as a game master and just sort of RPGs in general. But then I got to have an episode with Seth where we talked a lot about inspiration and kind of the beginning steps of starting the running of an adventure. And I think we've probably talked, not quite ad nauseum, but we've talked a lot about our first steps, and I'm sure people that have listened for any length of time remember the story of you getting the West End Games D6 version.
Not knowing what the f*** I was doing?
Exactly, that's the story. So you just made stuff up, and it was still fun. Then you did learn how to do stuff. So we're going to kind of follow up on some of those conversation threads from when we talked with Seth, but after you figured out what you were doing, how long was it before you became the GM, or was that just a natural next step for you? It was like, now we know how to actually play this game. Who's going to run it? Oh, it's going to be Leo. And was the West End Games one the one that you actually started playing, or was it the 1998, 1999 version of Star Wars D20 from Wizards of the Coast?
Well, I did do some game mastering with West End Games. Because, I mean, at the time there was really only 3 of us play, maybe 4, depending on if, like Steve Heisey would come play or something like that. So we kind of ended up sort of rotating duties every now and then, where, I would take a turn being GM for a little while, and then one of the other guys would be a GM for a little while. And we had just sort of ran, like, a lot of, like, really tiny short campaigns. Like, a lot of times they were just like one session adventures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all pretty much stuff just made off the cuff, and we just sort of went where we went. Like, we didn't have any pre-made adventures. It never occurred to us. It honestly never really even occurred to us to plan stuff out ahead of time. It was just sort of like we would be hanging out after school, and one of us would be like, let's play. And then we would pull out the books and our dice, and one of us would just start making shit up.
So at what point did you, I guess I don't want to say get serious about it, because, you know, just having fun with it is as serious as is required. You don't have to be like, I'm going to make this my second job and become a professional DM someday. You know, you don't have to be super serial about it to be a good GM. But, like, when did you decide to start thinking long term, I guess, about your adventure planning? If ever. Maybe you've never done that. You're always just, I don't know, give me the monster book. Okay, here we go.
Well, that would have been like in college. In college, I managed to find the on-campus magic night, you know, and then from there, that was my gateway to networking with all the other nerds on campus. And also found D&D group, and we, you know, and I started playing with a group of those guys every Sunday morning. We used to do D&D. You know, then getting to play with other guys. Like, we had this one guy, he was a pretty good DM, and he planned stuff out. And we had, like, there was another guy who he, like, always made these really complex stuff, but his dungeons were always super easy to get through because he always went left. Like, it was like an
What?
It was like an unconscious thing he did, where the left, when he would design dungeons, the left path was always safe and the right was always where all the traps and shit were. So he would just always be baffled on how we could fly through his dungeons, because we never told him that we had his system figured out. And he may not have even known he was doing it. He may have just been, like, subconsciously doing it. I don't know, but yeah, we just always, it's a fork? Okay, we'll go left. And, but anyways, just kind of playing with some of these other guys helped me see the possibilities. And then I discovered the D20 system, of the Star Wars role playing. And I knew it would be really easy for all the other guys to jump into, because we were playing D&D 3.5 at the time. Well, actually, I think when we first started, we were playing 3.0, because I don't think 3.5 was out yet. But at any rate, so yeah, I mean, it's essentially the same system in the Star Wars D20. So I picked up a few of the books and just, you know, started asking guys to see who else would want to run some Star Wars stuff with me.
So, talking about adventure planning, and I guess it's probably been a while since you've had to do any serious GM planning. Is that fair to say?
A few years since I've last, like, ran anything real serious.
When you were, did you find that your best games were kind of just aiming for a really good one-shot, like just having people over when you can and here's an adventure, go? Or did you fall into the trap that many of us do of trying to plan big, elaborate campaigns that have deep stories and this great villain that you really hope they hate and they want to fight?
I think in the end, like, the one-shots tended to work out the best for me. Because what I would do sometimes is, you know, we would play the big, long campaign or the long adventure, but I would sort of break up the main storyline I would pull out, like, some pre-made adventures or something like that. Or even if there was just, like, a character storyline that maybe would be good to jump off to the side for a little bit. And we would just sort of run through that as kind of like a break from the big story. And I think, honestly, those nights usually worked out the best. And I think that was partially my fault for always wanting to make, like you said, this big epic story that sometimes it was like too much there and you couldn't really get into it. But like the last one I ran through the full campaign, early on, they got in a fight with this Imperial Customs guy who was corrupt, and they ended up getting him fired. And I decided to just sort of keep bringing that guy back every now and then. Like every few adventures, I would like throw him back in front of them. He would just show up with like a gang of dudes and be like, "You motherfuckers, you're gonna pay for ruining my life." Or like they were in like a space race kind of thing, or like it was like an obstacle course sort of thing, so we could do all this stuff with like maneuver checks and things like that. And that guy entered the race also, and then broke the rules and was firing on them, actually trying to kill them as they're flying around doing all these complicated maneuvers and stuff. And just that like random, like I didn't plan that. I just sort of kind of enjoyed the way I played his character when we were role-playing the scenes with him that first time they encountered each other. And, just as a whim, decided to sort of bring him back. And that ended up being the thing that my players actually liked the most. More so, I think, than, like the planned-out villains and the planned-out story and things like that. They liked having just this, like, sort of ground-level grunt guy who was on there, sort of the same terms and stuff as they were, to be their rival as they traveled around the galaxy.
Yeah, I found that too. That I mean, it's certainly a meme that has gone around. I think with like the couple on the street with the guy's head turned, where it's like the party is the guy and random one-off who knows what NPC is what they're all looking at, and your big plot is like, hey, the big plot's over here. What are you doing? Because even just with the game that I've been running, I've been running a pre-made adventure, but just so we can keep things moving along, and it's just meant to be a couple hours. People drop in, drop out as they want. It's not like a big, serious campaign commitment. But I stuck a character in there who is just supposed to be like a burnt-out office drone who likes to hang out at this sabacc parlor. And for some reason, he turned out to be like Bobcat Goldthwait in the movie Scrooged. If you remember his role in that. He wears a suit to work, but, he leaves work and he's really disheveled and unshaved and smells like whiskey all the time. And I even gave him the Bobcat Goldthwait voice. And that became the most valuable NPC of the campaign thus far.
And as we learned in our last episode of Clumsy and Random, when Evan decides to give a character a good voice, good things can happen.
It's true. Magic happens. Like Eopie butts.
Oh, yeah, that's a definition of magic, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Now I just lost my train of thought thanks to the Eopie butts.
Sorry, man.
No, that happens.
But I think, that is something it's definitely really common, and it happens to all GMs and DMs at least one time, if not more, that you're gonna spend a lot of time doing all these like crazy campaign planning and stuff, and in the end, frankly, sometimes your players aren't gonna care, or you're just gonna get bogged down in these details, and it's going to more annoy your players than be fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that also comes down to knowing the group you're playing with. I mean, every play group is going to be different, and for some players, that could be what they're really looking for. They want to have a campaign that's long, and I think for a lot of those kind of players, the important thing is to give them moments to actually role play their characters. If it's just one combat encounter after another, I don't know very many people who find that fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because in the end, all you're just kind of doing is just rolling. It's just an endless parade of rolling dice and not actually engaging in the role-playing part of the role-playing game.
Yeah, I think I've told my story ad nauseum about the guy at a public play event who was like, okay, my thing does 18 damage. And I look at the GM and we look at him and we're like, so what does it do? And he smiles this just like stupid smile. I want to punch his face. He's like, it does 18 damage. I'm like, you know exactly what we're asking you. You're doing this on purpose. But let me ask you this then. Do you, or have you in the past, like, I guess taken a survey is a bit of a stretch for asking the group what kind of campaign they want? Because I think I often assume that they want what I want, which is not necessarily the case. If I want to do Lord of the Rings and they want to do Monty Python, and it's just like, well, I guess we're going the direction that the group has taken us.
I guess I never really have. I think it's also partially because most of the people that I was role-playing with, I've had already previously role-played with them in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of, I already knew, like, oh, this is, you know what their play styles are, and I already know, kind of what to expect from them. And so that makes things a little bit easier, I think, since I'm not going into it as like, where you're just kind of finding a random pickup group through your local game store or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something that you can just develop over time. You just get a sense for, well, especially if you've got enough people that you can draw from a big enough pool of players, then for the type of game that you want to run, you can certainly cherry pick certain people.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there's going to be some of that. I mean, there was players in our local gaming group, or I guess more like our gaming group back in college. There was a couple that, unless we had no choice, we would find reasons to not let those people into our parties because they just weren't fun to play with. I mean, I think it's, well, I guess I shouldn't necessarily say they weren't fun to play with, although one of them really wasn't fun to play with. But I think, you could just say that their play style absolutely did not mesh with the rest of ours.
Mm-hmm.
There was like one guy who he just didn't want to take the time to really learn anything. Like, he would just cast spells and use abilities without actually reading what they actually do, and sometimes make situations worse instead of better. And there's like another guy who was like this min-maxer dude and stuff, and would go and like look up on the internet, it'd be like, okay, for this next campaign, I'm gonna make a monk. And now I'm going to go on some D&D forums and find out what is the absolutely most horrendous broken build for a monk. And that's what I'm going to do. And everyone else is going to be really annoyed with me. Because, I mean, if that's your thing, whatever, more power to you. I just don't like playing with someone who's like a min-maxer like that, because it takes away from the fun for the rest of the party, I think, if someone is too powerful.
Right.
And sometimes you'll get somebody in your group like that when you didn't realize it at first, and then sometimes that's just your job. You just have to mitigate that or manage that as GM, which is always fun.
Yeah, looking up like on the internet for Magic or Hearthstone decks, I mean, that's a thing that I can understand doing, but I've never felt any compulsion at all to go on any forums or Reddit or anything like that to look up the, quote, best build for a class. Because it seems like kind of a moot point, because it's not, it comes down to what sort of character, I guess for me it's the sort of character that you'd want to play to fit a personality. But I guess if you're the kind of player who just wants to score the most, in air quotes that you can't see because this is radio, I guess that's a thing you can do. It's just not a thing that really ever occurs to me. Well, and you were telling me when we were out getting beer at the 2016 FFG Worlds about this, what was it? A guy who, oh crap, I can't remember the story now. He just had to either win everything or he had to get everything. I think you were telling me this. It was in an FFG Star Wars. So it was like Edge of the Empire, I think. Man, now he set up this whole big story, and I do not remember enough details. It was another one of those horrendous experiences.
Well, maybe it was something like, so I had a player in one of my Star Wars campaigns. It was actually, I think we were playing a Saga edition. D20 Saga edition. Barf.
I'll ask you about that too.
He, again, looked up a character, and I stupidly didn't pay attention to what items and stuff he was taking. So he made this droid character. It was an astromech droid, except it had protocol droid arms welded on the sides of it, so he could still carry guns.
Okay.
So he had this little astromech character. So of course, he got all the normal AC bonuses and stuff like that, even though Star Wars didn't have AC, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Bonuses for having a small character and things like that. And then he had, he'd taken some other talents and things to boost it, so he was impossible to hit. And then he found the most broken blaster in Saga Edition that could do that did AoE damage, and it was a crazy amount of damage. I forget what it was. I think it was something in the Legacies era handbook. But anyways, it was really stupid, and he could sit there and slaughter anything I threw at him as GM, anything that was level appropriate for their party. The rest of the party would be having an appropriate challenge, and he would just waltz out there and be like, pew, 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 and everything would die, and I could not hit him. So I just had to start fudging dice rolls behind the screen. Whenever my NPCs would roll against him, they would miraculously roll better. That was the only way to balance things out, because he just, he was not, in the end, the other players weren't really getting to participate in any of those combat situations in a meaningful way, because he was just dominating all the combat.
So then, ultimately, did you have a talk with him outside of game time, or did he just stop showing up?
Oh, no, we didn't. I didn't have a talk with him because I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Like I said, well, this is one of these guys. We're still friends to this day. It's someone I've known for a long time. And that's just kind of how he is.
Okay. You've never had to make a character for him after he shows up to the game, right?
No.
Okay, because I have had to do that for someone that I've played with for years. I'm like, come on, just make your guy.
That's pretty rough. Like he didn't, like he came unprepared, or like the character he did actually bring was like way too inappropriate or ridiculous.
Didn't have a guy made.
Ah. How can you come to a role-playing session knowingly and not have a guy made? I mean, I can understand where sometimes we would consciously have like our first session be like the character making session.
Mm-hmm.
So that way everyone could kind of plan out together and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be a fighter or whatever. Okay, well then we're going to need to have a pilot for our party. Who's going to do that? Who wants to do that? You know, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a totally different situation.
Yeah, I think we do that more often than we don't. But this was just like making a level 1 guy. Here's all the resources. Go. And I don't know. It's just one of those things. I'm like, this is not hard. This is something you've done before. Just do it. But, I mean, if it's a brand new system, that's one thing. Especially, and it does... Now, I know this is an area that we will throw down on. If it's a system that does not have a PDF that I can just send their way, and they can have on their phone so they can make their guy from those resources, you know, when they can, you know, I think that makes life a little bit harder when I can't just be like, here's a link to my Dropbox or here's a link to my Google Drive.
Yeah. I mean, if your players don't want to have the commitment to buy it themselves, this is where we part ways, sir.
Yes, it is.
But we've kind of, you know, run that into the ground, I think, many times, me and you. How do you feel about, from a storytelling perspective with your players, creating a story that's very restrictive? Like, I know, like, I played with a few campaigns in the past where the GM, in an effort to keep people sort of on the path of his story, would basically craft his campaigns in such a way as that you really had no choice but to continue on down the path that he set in front of you. Like one time back when we were playing D&D, we did this whole thing where it was like Garl Glittergold magicked up this dungeon that was just, it was like 100 levels straight down into the ground, and there was supposed to be some crazy treasure at the bottom, and nobody's ever got there before. And so it was like he just started our party in the first room of the dungeon. There's no way to go back. The only way for us was to go down into the dungeon further. So there was no deviation allowed for us, short of just like camping out in a room and just being all like, well, okay, we're going to just sit here for a week.
Well, I'm just going to run with that scenario for a second, because I started coming up with ideas as you were describing it. If I was going to do a 100 level super dungeon, which is a thing, I guess, I would certainly give them a limited number of Scroll of Town Portal, just like in Diablo, but only a few, like maybe one for each person. Or maybe instead of doing that, I would make them do like dungeoneering checks to see how many levels they could clear, because not every level is going to be stocked with a billion monsters. But as far as railroading goes, I have... Boy, that's a good question, because I think I might be accused of railroading at times, but then I have rolled with so many punches that my players have thrown at me that I think they would tend to appreciate my flexibility with their decisions. And I try to give them as many choices. It's like, without saying, this guy with the exclamation point or the question mark over his head has these many quests for you. Pick one, without being quite that obvious about it. I try to give them some agency as to which thread they want to pull, and then they go from there. But then I also really try to have a modicum of understanding with them that, like, look, you're here to play through an adventure, right? You're not here to just eat hot dogs and try to steal everyone's pants. So let's go on the adventure. I don't know if you've ever had to just sort of be like, we're here to play the story, guys.
I mean, usually I haven't had to really do that. Usually what I've had happen, and this has sadly happened more than once, is we get to a point in the story and one character ends up killing the rest of their party intentionally.
Wait, like murdering them, or just like doing something stupid like, oh, sorry, I brought down the whole ancient temple on your heads?
No, like straight up murdering them.
Okay.
So like
why?
one time we were playing a campaign with all Jedi, right?
Okay. Sounds
And
boring. Great.
Well, I mean, that's what we were doing. I mean, they were all Jedi.
Okay.
I don't know, you can do some interesting stuff with it. But
I'm
so
sure.
at any I mean, it was set during like the Old Republic era, so I mean,
Oh,
so
okay,
there was
good.
Jedi around.
100% better.
It wasn't. Yeah, this was not like a whole bunch of Jedi, a whole party of Jedi during the Galactic Civil War.
Okay.
So actually, it was like a master, a Jedi master, a couple knights, and then a couple Padawans were the party, right? And so I kind of had set it up so that this Sith that was going to be like the big bad of the campaign was supposed to tempt one of the Padawans to turn to the dark side. And I'd kind of like just sort of randomly determined which one in the party was going to be the one that's going to get tempted and blah blah blah. So I set them up in a situation where one way out is for this party member to kill everybody and join the Sith, which I knew he wasn't going to do, and he didn't, because the whole point was for him to, resist the temptation and then for them to find another way out that was, baked into the scenario. But one of the other characters decided to use this opportunity to, since the one that was supposed to have been tempted was not going for it, he decided to just take the opportunity himself and kill everybody to impress the Sith Lord. And so, I mean, I kind of did that to myself, but also, you generally don't expect your players to just decide to kill each other. I was able to Oh, sorry, what did you say?
Oh, no, now I'm just trying to, I'm imagining it playing out, and I'm trying to figure out how one Padawan managed to straight up murder two knights, another Padawan, and a master.
Well, see, everyone but the one who was supposed to do the killing was restrained, and so the one guy manages to escape, right? He manages to get out of his restraints. And so everyone thinks, oh, okay, so he's out, and he's going to rescue us now. Or he's going to help the other Padawan set the rest of us free, and we're going to get out of here. But instead, he stabs the other Padawan in the back and while everyone else is all restrained or stunned, he just kills them.
Huh.
I was at least able to use... I then turned that character into an NPC that I then used in the next campaign. Because they were like, well, we didn't really get to play Jedi as much as we wanted to, so let's play Jedi again. And so the campaign was that they were Jedi sent to hunt down the character that murdered all his friends.
Okay. Wait, so all the other players were just like cool with it?
Well, I mean, they were just like, yeah, whatever. Let's re-roll. Keep going.
Okay. Not what I would have expected. But good for them, I guess?
See,
for
thing
rolling
is,
with it?
Yeah, the thing is, again, it's one of those things where it's like, know your party. And this guy, I mean, I should have known better, because he is like... He will... Whatever you expect him to do will be the thing that he never, ever, ever does. Mm-hmm. And he will always do, like in another campaign, I once had him murder a bunch of Imperial Knights by flipping a repulsor sled over top of them. And he was a Jawa.
Okay.
Yeah, he crushed them all under a repulsor sled. And it was one of those things where it's like, I maybe could have said, that doesn't work, but I thought the results were hilarious enough that I let it go.
All right. Sure. I mean, sometimes it is just too funny.
I mean, and he had the rolls. That's another thing. The guy is super lucky with his rolls. So he often will come up with ridiculous things, but then he will also have the rolls to back it up. Like, it's sort of like, he is like the living embodiment of that meme. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme about the flying dwarf.
I feel like I have, but now I can't picture it.
So it's basically like it's a D&D party, and they're fighting on like a skinny little cliff edge or whatever, and the dwarf ends up getting thrown off the edge of the ledge, and the DM's like, what do you do? And the dwarf's like, well, I don't really have anything else to do, so I flap my arms. And so the DM just sort of looks at him and then goes, roll your dice. And he rolls a 20. And the DM says, roll again. And he rolls a 20. DM says, roll again. And he rolls another 20. And then the DM sighs and says, the rest of the party stares in amazement as the dwarf, flapping his arms furiously, flies back up onto the ledge. And I mean, that's the sort... He actually did one time roll 3 20s in a row on me, because he scored a crit on sort of like a sub-boss character, and I didn't... And the way the Star Wars wound rules work with crits, they go right into your wounds, and a lightsaber hit was usually enough to just straight up kill anything in one hit on a crit. I didn't want him to die that fast, so, I had him roll again, and he kept rolling 20s, till finally I just had to throw up my hands and be like, fine, you kill him. Congratulations. You've taken all the fun. You've destroyed this fight that I crafted to be this cool, long fight between you and this guy, sort of, that would range back and forth across this map I drew, and instead you would just walk up and one-shot him.
I can't lie that the one time I one-shotted not just the main bad guy, but the entire dungeon, which was a Star Destroyer, just blew it up before we could even get to the whole going through it, fighting the stormtroopers or whatever it was. We blew it up and got out of there, and it's just like, okay, what's next, GM? But that was back when I was young and a dick who was fiddling about on his phone too much during RPG sessions.
You bad man.
I know.
Do you as a GM, do you make sure to punish players that do like that?
Like fiddle about on their phones?
Yes.
I try not to, although I think I shame them more than punish them. Although that is certainly another topic. Well, there's a lot of topics left that we need to discuss for people, especially if people are going to start trying to run games and they're like, well, what do I do when this happens? But we have been going for close to an hour. Actually, I was going to ask you as a final question what it is about Saga Edition that you hate so much, or I could ask you, the more serious question of when you've got a problem person or someone who isn't paying attention, what's your approach to that? I think that's a better question that people will run into other than, well, this person hates Saga Edition.
Well, okay. So I think my first step, if I've got a problem player, is like any good Minnesotan, is I get passive aggressive on them to start with.
Oh, is that why I do that? Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so like you said, we'll kind of, try and shame them a little bit, but sort of keeping it friendly.
Yeah.
Joking. But if things continue, depending on who it is, I might take a little bit different approach. Like if it's one of my friends that I still want to play and hang out with, I might just sort of enact punishments on their character as we go. Fudging rolls, giving better loot to other characters, whatever. If it's somebody who I don't, like I said, sometimes you will get a person in your party and discover that they just don't work with the rest of the group anyway. Yep. And this sort of gives you a good reason then to sort of have a talk with them. My old boss would call it the come to Jesus talk.
Yeah.
And, just kind of, sometimes as GM you just have to do that and sort of lay down the law and say, hey, if you're going to be here, be here. If not, maybe you could free up a party slot for someone who actually wants to play the game.
Yeah. I think I've only ever had one person that really kind of wrecked a session, but they were not a regular. They were like a coworker of a friend that they were trying to bring in the group, and we haven't seen this person again. But like I've heard from my regulars that they really kind of wrecked that session and kind of sort of wrecked the campaign a bit. And we just never came back to that story again, which was really disappointing for me because I was another one that I was running. I mean, I didn't even get to have that with that person of like, hey, you don't have to stay on the same page the whole time, but at least be reading the same book. So, but I guess I would say overall I've been pretty lucky to have more people that I, have not really had to worry about too much. Some people
except that Christian guy. I don't know about him. I've heard your stories about that guy, and I don't think I would ever want to roleplay with him, man.
Oh no. No, now that he is running regularly, he looks back at his past performances and says, "Oh, I apologize for that." He knows what I'm talking about. Now he has to put up with us. He's not in the game with us. We're in the... How's it go? The Rorschach line? Doesn't matter. I butchered it. It's too late. I can't bring it back. Yes, he once was bad, but now is good. See, this is what happens when you're a patron. You get to be in the chat, and we get to talk smack about you, and all you can do is type at us. But it's great for everyone. No, Christian does a fine job as both GM and as a player, and I do think that GMing, every player should do it at least once. I know people have tried to put together systems like, point systems to force people to play or to GM.
What?
But yeah, it's like of all like the videos and subreddits and forums, they've tried to come up with like systems to get people to GM so that GMs can actually play once in a while too, and it's kind of forcing them to, and I don't know. I understand why they do it, but it's not really helpful, because I think someone that's forced to GM is, just not going to be happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, usually I've just been like, hey guys, I would like the chance to actually play for once. Does someone else want to run a Star Wars campaign? And most of the time, no one steps up, but sometimes somebody does, and I actually get to play. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that is how it goes. Some of us will be eternally GMs until someone steps up to the plate. But I think that's probably going to do it for us tonight, unless you've got anything else. Any last thoughts? I'm sure we'll come back and explore more of these topics in the future, though. But if you have anything, let her rip.
Sounds like it. I don't think I've got anything else.
Okay, perfect. Well, in that case, we did housekeeping at the front. So hope everyone has a good night, and everyone should either play more RPGs or go get some Legion. And yes, there you go. That's what you should do. That's your homework, everybody. Go buy some Legion. No, just RPG books. That's all you need. All right, get out of here. Goodbye. Thanks for joining us. You're the best.
Or RPG PDFs.
I don't even understand what that was.
You said go buy more books. That's all you need. More RPG books. And I said, yeah. Got it?
I got it now.